Hello traders, welcome to the video. My name is Nate, and in this video we're going to be talking about support and resistance. Okay, so what is support and resistance? Well, support and resistance, kind of the technical definition would be inflection points between fear and greed. But let's not worry about that. Basically, it's going to be levels on the chart that price either holds or bounces from. What I love about support and resistance is how easy it is. You know, there's a lot of overly complicated things in trading. This is not one of them. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to take our trend line tool. So we're going to extend our trend line horizontally. I'm going to make it green for support. And here we go. We have a higher time frame support level. Let's do the same thing with resistance. We're going to take our trend line tool and we're looking for an obvious level. You want to connect as many pivots as you can. So there we go. I'm going to make it red for resistance. So now we have a clearly defined support and resistance zone. And you can see how price traded between the zone, right? It's very clear, very easy to see. So this is going to be our higher time frame support and resistance zone. Now what you can do is you can zoom in and draw lower time frame support and resistance zones. So we're going to zoom all the way in here. We're going to take our trend line tool and we're going to try and connect as many of these pivot highs right here. That'll work. Doesn't have to be perfect. I'm going to zoom out a little bit and just extend this all the way across. Okay, so here we go. All right, we're going to zoom back out. So we have our higher time frame support and resistance zone. But within this higher time frame support and resistance zone, we have additional support and resistance zones. So you can see we have support and resistance, and then price actually broke through resistance. So basically when price breaks through resistance, it becomes support. So we had resistance, price broke through, and it now becomes support. So you can see all the way through here, it acted as support until it finally broke below. And what happens when price breaks below support? It becomes resistance, and you can see how it acted as resistance right here. We have our higher time frame support and resistance, and then we have lower time frame support and resistance. Now you might be wondering, okay, well, what leads to price breaking through a support and resistance level? I want you to think of it like you're trying to kick through a door, right? And you know, on the first kick, you're probably not going to break through the door, probably not even on the second kick. But on the third kick, you know, you're probably going to crack the door at the very least, right? And then definitely by the fourth or the fifth kick, you are getting through that door. It's the same thing with charting. The more times that price hits a level, the weaker it becomes. And I can show you guys right here. So if we zoom in, we have hit number 1, 2, 3, 4, and on the fifth hit, price broke through. Same thing over here, 1, 2, 3, 4. On the fifth hit, price broke through. And if we zoom out, look at our higher time frame support level, we've hit number 1, 2, 3, and on the fourth hit, price broke through. So on this chart, what I really love about this chart is we have a very obvious resistance level. It is very easy to see. There we go. There is our resistance level, and you can see how many times price has hit this level and has failed or gotten rejected. Let's draw our support level. Remember, you're trying to connect as many pivots as you can. You want to try and go to the extreme of the pivot. So basically like the low of the pivot. So here we go. We have our support level and we have our resistance level. And you can see how price has been trading between the support and resistance level for an extended period of time. So we've looked at horizontal support and resistance, right? But you can also draw diagonal support and resistance. We're going to take our trend line tool and we're going to connect these pivot lows right over here. Now again, it doesn't have to be perfect. So now we have diagonal support. Let's do the same thing, but with resistance. All right, so that's going to be our resistance level. So you can see how we have a pivot high here, pivot high here, here, and then price finally broke through over here after being hit, you know, 4 or 5 times. Even over here, same thing. So here's going to be our support level, and then let's do our resistance. So what's kind of cool about this, all right, so we had this pattern, right? This is a wedge pattern. So we have our resistance and we have our support level, and price eventually broke through, right? So it broke above, and then it traded back down here where it broke below. But what happens over here? we have a point on the chart where you have two intersecting levels. And essentially what that is, it's kind of like stacking support and resistance levels. It would be like if you took two pieces of plywood and put them together, it's going to be significantly stronger, right? If you have one piece of plywood, it's not going to be that hard to kick through. If you have two pieces of plywood put together, it's going to be way harder to kick through. It's the same thing with price trying to get through a level. Just one level, price might not have too hard of a time getting through, but when you stack two levels on top of each other, it is much harder for price to break through. So here at this we have converging levels. There was a very high probability that price was not going to be able to get through, and it couldn't. All right, so here's our support, resistance, and then we had a breakout. And even over here, we have support and resistance, diagonal support and resistance. So here's our support level. I'm going to make that green. And then we're going to do the same thing with our resistance. Okay, so now you can see we've done horizontal support and resistance, and now you can kind of see how we draw diagonal support and resistance. So depending on your chart and how the price action is, you're either going to draw horizontal or diagonal support and resistance. But you can see how essentially price will trade between support and resistance and then break out, and then it'll kind of form back into another support and resistance zone. Same thing as over here, it broke out, formed another support and resistance zone, and then it broke out again, and I'm sure at some point up here it's probably going to form another support and resistance zone. Where that is and what it'll look like, I don't know, but you know, it could be something like this. All right, guys, thank you. I really appreciate it. If you liked the video, well, please like and subscribe. Best of luck on your trading journey. Thank you, everyone.